Have you ever seen a news report about an election or maybe a new market trend, and they claim to know what an entire country is thinking just by talking to a few hundred people? It kind of feels like magic, right? Well, it's not magic. It's the surprising and really powerful science of sampling. So let's get into it and see how we can learn so much about a huge group by studying just a tiny, tiny piece of it. Yeah, this is the big question, isn't it? It just feels wrong. How on earth can 1,000 people possibly speak for millions? It seems completely counterintuitive. But the answer lies in a super simple and frankly a pretty delicious analogy. And there you have it. Just think of an entire country or any large group as a giant pot of soup. Now, if you want to know if that soup is any good, you don't have to drink the whole thing, right? Of course not. You just give it a good stir and you take one spoonful. That spoonful is your sample, and if you've stirred the pot well enough, that one taste tells you everything you need to know about the entire pot.
Okay, so you might be thinking, well, if we want to be 100% certain, why not just ask everyone? Why not just check the whole pot of soup? It seems logical, but there are some really, really good reasons why that's often a terrible idea.
For starters, it's just wildly impractical. Trying to survey every single person in a country would take years and cost an absolute fortune. And get this, sometimes a sample can actually be more reliable. Think about it. If you're trying to survey millions, people get tired, mistakes are made. And finally, sometimes it's just flat out impossible. I mean, imagine a company that makes light bulbs. If they tested every single bulb to see how long it lasted, they'd have 0 light bulbs left to sell. All right, to really wrap our heads around this, we've got to get a couple of key terms straight. Let's just lay down the ground rules so we're all on the same page.
First, we have the population. This is the whole shebang. It's the entire group of people or things that we're interested in, all the voters in a country, every car made at a factory. That's our whole pot of soup.
And then, of course, we have the sample. This is the small, manageable chunk that we actually look at to learn about that bigger group. It's that single, telling spoonful of soup that we taste. Now, this is super important. What we're trying to know about the population is called a parameter. You can just think of this as the truth with a capital T. It's the real average age, the actual percentage of people who will vote a certain way. What we measure in our small sample is called a statistic, and that's our best estimate of the truth. The whole game is making sure our estimate is as close to the truth as possible. And, researchers don't just wing it. There's a clear process. First, they have to define exactly who makes up the population. Then they create something called a sample frame, which is basically just the master list they'll draw from, like a phone book or a list of all university students. Only after that do they figure out how they're going to pick people and how many they need. This process leads us to 2 very different worlds of sampling. First up, we have the world of probability sampling. You can think of this as the gold standard. It's the most rigorous, most scientific way to do things. So what does that really mean? The key idea here is that every single person or element in the entire population has a known, calculatable chance of being picked. Nothing is left to guesswork or convenience. It's all about pure, unadulterated odds. And why go through all this trouble? Well, because this is how you get that truly representative spoonful of soup. This is the method that allows you to confidently say that what you found in your small sample is very likely true for the entire population. And there are a few ways to do this. The most famous is probably simple random sampling. It's basically like a lottery. You put everyone's name in a giant hat and draw them out. Everybody has an equal shot. Then there's stratified random sampling, where you're a bit more strategic. You might divide the population into important subgroups first, say by age or location, and then you draw randomly from each of those groups. This just makes sure you get a good mix.
But let's be real. The gold standard isn't always practical or even possible. And that brings us to the second world. Non-probability sampling. This is, well, it's the reality check.
So as you can probably guess, in this world, the chances of any given person being selected are not known. The selection process is not random at all. Instead, it's based on something else, like how easy someone is to reach or a researcher's own judgment. So you might be asking, why on earth would anyone do this? Well, it really boils down to 2 things: speed and money. This approach is great when you just need to get a quick feel for a topic, or you're just exploring an idea early on. You're not trying to make a definitive statement about the whole population. And you see these all the time. Convenient sampling is literally just asking whoever is easiest to find. Think of those people with clipboards at the mall. Or there's judgment sampling, where a researcher specifically seeks out experts because
well, they need an expert opinion on something.
So it all comes down to a really crucial trade-off. Probability sampling, the gold standard, lets you generalize your findings to everybody. But man, it can be slow and expensive. Non-probability sampling is fast and cheap, but you have to be super careful not to pretend your findings apply to anyone beyond the people you actually talk to. It's all about picking the right tool for the job.
And all of this brings us to what is probably the biggest, most important takeaway of all. When you see a poll or a study, what really matters? Is it the size or is it something else entirely?
Okay, look at this number, 1.5 million. Imagine an online poll that gets 1.5 million responses. That sounds incredible, doesn't it? That must be a super accurate poll.
But let's just stop for a second and ask the question. Does that massive number automatically make it a good, reliable sample? And the answer is a resounding, absolute no. Not if all those people chose to participate. That's a self-selected convenience sample. The truth is, a small, scientifically chosen random sample of just 1,000 people is infinitely more powerful and more representative than millions who just happen to click a link. How you choose is so much more important than how many you choose.
It all boils down to this single core principle. It's not about getting a big sample, it's about getting a representative sample, one that actually looks like a miniature version of the entire population. That's the only thing that lets you generalize your findings with any confidence at all.
So here it is. The next time you see a headline about a new study or a shocking poll, you are now equipped with the one question that matters most. Don't be dazzled by the huge numbers. The most important, most critical question you can ask isn't how many people did you survey? It's how did you choose them?